And welcome to another episode of Experts Speak. I am Michael DeLon. Today I'm talking with Brian Glass. Brian, thanks for being with me today, sir.
Hey, Michael, thank you for having me.
You are welcome. It's going to be a fun conversation. Brian Glass is, he partners with his dad, Ben Glass, with Ben Glass Legal, and with great legal marketing. They help solo small firm attorneys grow their business um, through just a lot of great marketing, but it's more than marketing. It's understanding how to run a business. And Brian, that's one reason I'm so excited to have you here is we're going to talk about some of the things that you do with the Ben Glass Law Firm and what you teach your members at Great Legal Marketing around the importance of values and clients and all kinds of things. So let's just dive in. Give us a snapshot, Brian. How in the world did you get doing what you're doing today?
Well, I followed my dad, right? I mean, that's the shortest and maybe the simplest answer. The longer answer, Michael, is like I don't actually really know. Like I just never really wanted to do anything other than be a lawyer.
Wow.
And I didn't really know what kind of a lawyer I wanted to be. I knew that I wanted to be in a courtroom. I enjoy argument. I enjoy being, effectively on stage in front of a judge or a jury. And so I dabbled in criminal law for a little bit. Didn't like hanging out in the criminal and the traffic hallways
Mhm.
with the kinds of lawyers that were practicing that kind of, like, it just wasn't my speed.
Yeah.
And then I pretty quickly discovered auto accident law, which for me is like the ultimate entrepreneurial journey, because you can really completely decouple your hourly rate from your time,
Yeah.
because we're not billing by the hour. It's all contingency fee. So the whole game for us becomes, how can you attract bigger cases, make them worth even more money, run them through your systems effectively and efficiently, and have happy clients on the other side.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how I got here. At the end of the day, like, I'm good at lawyering.
Yeah.
But if I were to do it over again, I'm sure I could find something else that made me happy. I would not say like lawyering is my passion so much as building a business and helping people is.
Yeah, and I actually love that, right? Because one of my marketing mentors, Roy Williams, talks about people say, follow your passions and everything. He's like, that's a bunch of hooey. He's
Yeah.
at one level, you got to love what you do, but if you really make commitments and find what you love to do, you would be able to do it anywhere. And one of the things you love to do and that you're really good at is helping people understand how to build a business. You mentioned in that whole diatribe you just talked about is systems.
Mm.
And let's just dive in really quickly around systems, whether it's marketing systems, financial systems, hiring systems. How have you learned, understood, leveraged systems, and how do you teach other law firms the importance and practicality of putting just simple systems in place?
It's another good question because I actually don't know. So here's what I would tell you about systems. I am not a systems builder.
Right.
I am somebody who can describe a result to you. I can walk you through, some of what the steps maybe kind of should look like. And then what I like is to have somebody else go and create that system and have me come back and tweak it. Where I think my gift really lies is in finding the levers to pull within a system to say, okay, that's running really inefficiently. Let's
Mhm.
talk about how we make that better. But I'm actually really, really poor at creating and defining the system itself.
Right. Well, but you're in great company because as am I, right? You and I are the visionary, that bigger leader. And what I find, Brian, is a lot of entrepreneurs get into business, a law firm, right? They get out of college, they start their own law firm, and they don't realize they need other people to do these things. And that's really what you were saying, right? You didn't say the word, delegate or have a
Yeah.
team member or whatever. But how critical is that if you're going to grow a business?
Oh, it's really critical, right? And so Ben and I were just having this discussion yesterday as we're going through some of his podcast system, and we're looking for, like, do we want to bring that in house, and how do we do that? And and the discussion that we were having is like, how much does the entrepreneur need to know about doing the thing before you can outsource it? Actually, it wasn't podcast; it was social media creation.
Yeah.
We're putting out our monthly curriculum video for the Great Legal Marketing Tribe, and we're talking about social media creation and how to start if you've never done any of it
Mhm.
before. And his advice is a little bit different. He's like, go to Udemy, learn a little bit, and then find somebody that can do it for you. I'm like, I think you should spend a week to 2 weeks with your phone, shooting your own videos, figuring out some of the software so that you know, do I like doing this? And then when I'm giving somebody instruction, like what are the kind of framework of the instructions that I need to give? And so yes, you can outsource just about everything. But I think in order to do it well, you've got to have some idea and you have to have gotten your hands dirty doing it yourself
Hmm.
first to know, you know, whether it's being run efficiently, whether you're being taken advantage of, whether it's something that you could create in-house somewhere else. Um, I've lost maybe what your original question was, but I like to get in and to experiment first. And I think you have to get in and do that. Like some people will sit down and sketch out, here's what the whole system looks like.
Yeah,
How many times have you done the thing? And they're like, none. Like, well, go do the thing for a
that's
week
right.
and then come back and write the system.
Yeah, exactly. Because I think if you and I love what you're saying there, because if you don't get in there and do it, you don't really understand all the little things, and you don't have to understand. Like I'm the big picture guy. Caleb, my son, works with me, right? And he and I will talk, and we'll say, okay, here's the idea. Here's what we want to do. Here for me, here are the 6 big rocks.
Hmm.
Caleb, who's my integrator, he'll go in and say, okay, there are 6 big rocks. Now there are 13 little rocks that go in there. But he does that. And together, because we're a really good team, we work it, build the system. Then he trains one of his virtual assistants to run that system as much as he can. But he and I are always doing things by ourselves at the beginning
Hmm.
to figure it out. Is this right? Or which way does it go? And how, for me, and I'd love for you to speak in on this, how does this system or the output of that system, so whether it's a social media thing, whether it's a
Hmm.
podcast, whether it's video, whatever, how do I make sure that it retains the the brand, the feel, the
Oh, yeah.
vibe of
Yeah.
talk about that and the importance there.
Yeah, well, I mean, you're really talking about core values, right? So this the person who's running the system needs to understand what it is that we're trying to produce at the end. Like, what's the
Mhm.
end goal? They can't just look at a set of instructions and then create the thing that you actually wanted without knowing what the thing that you wanted was. And then they need to have this framework of core values that allow them, like when things are one-offs, when you haven't written precise instructions for what happens when the client says this, what happens when the adjuster says that, right? You have to have this framework of values that allows your team to operate inside of the system where there aren't specifically written instructions, and make decisions as though you were making the decisions. And then, of course, you know you're going to come back and look, and occasionally you're like, that was not the right thing to do.
Yeah,
And here's why. But as long as you're, for me, as long as you're operating under this umbrella and you can articulate why you made a decision and why you thought it was in conjunction with what we're trying to do, then I'm good with that. And that's the only way to grow a business. Like you have to have people who are willing to make decisions on their own and who
yeah.
don't need to come back to you. Because when you become the bottleneck, like everything stops.
Absolutely. Yeah, I turn the phrase I use around all of that is I give my team members the freedom to fail.
Hmm.
And they're not going to get fired or anything. And I learned it from Henry Ford years ago in a book that somebody messed something up at the factory and it cost 10 grand. And the guy comes into his office like, ready to be fired. And Henry's like, I just spent $10,000 educating you. I'm not firing you, right?
Hmm.
And it's that mentality of, yeah, I want systems to get perfected and things and get better over time. Let's dive in a little bit around entrepreneurship
Hmm.
from a law firm perspective, which is the same as many other businesses. What do you find the struggles are for many solo small firm attorneys as they're growing their business? They've been in it 5, 6, 7 years. Where are they hitting the walls, and how do you guys come alongside and help guide and direct them?
It's almost always people. It's
Mm,
almost always people, right? Um, in that it could be you're afraid to invest in the next person, or it could be that you're afraid to fire the person that's been with you for 10 years, or it could be that you've, you know, promoted somebody out of their element into a job that they're not ready for, not trained for, not willing to learn how to do, and that you now need to come back and demote them, right?
yeah.
It's that's almost always where lawyers, and I'm
Mm,
sure it's the same across all business, all
yeah.
small businesses, almost always where we're hitting the wall. And so a lot of times, like we'll be having a discussion within our own law firm between Ben and I about here's the issue that we're having. And the reality is, Michael, that we know the advice that we would give to one of our members if they came to us with that problem,
Yes.
but for, because we're human too. Like you don't want to hurt people's feelings or cost somebody a job or,
Right.
or any of those things. Um, and that's what keeps lawyers from acting as quickly as we should,
Hmm.
especially when it comes to our employees. So it's, yeah, when we're hitting the wall, it's usually one of two things. It's people or it's how you feel about people.
That's so good, and it's not the answer I was expecting, which I
Huh.
really, really
What'd you
appreciate.
think I was gonna say?
Well, most people come back to marketing, right? They're not getting enough
Oh yeah.
leads. They're not doing this. And yes, those are all issues, but you're right. It is the people. And the other aspect that I've hear from business owners all the time, Brian, is around, hiring an assistant, either in person or a virtual assistant, right?
Mhm,
And they're like, well, I tried that once. It didn't work. And
mhm.
so I'm
Oh yeah.
scared. I don't
Yep.
know what to do. And they get paralyzed. And it's like, no, no, you've got to, and you got to do it. And I know you guys have written in your newsletter and different things about processes that you use to hire and train an assistant. There are people who have done it, and I want to talk about the value of putting yourself, Brian, as a business owner, in a group of other like-minded people, masterminds, coaching programs. How
Mhm.
have you done that over the last few years? And let's talk about how business owners and why it's so important to be in a group of that nature.
Well, I will answer that question, but I want to come back to the marketing piece because I think a lot of us think that it is marketing, and sometimes marketing is your problem, right? But there are other times when your marketing is working really, really well, and it's your intake and your conversion that is not. And
Yes.
so that's been the story of our firm for the last year is that we fixed intake and conversion. We're not spending an additional marketing dollar, and we're up 52% signed cases year over year, right?
Wow.
So many lawyers think that the answer is more PPC or LSA spend or the next landing page. Um, but actually, if you get the data and you dive into the data, sometimes it's your conversion, right? And so that's another like you just have to keep tinkering in the system and be operating in the system and understanding your data. All right, so value of being in rooms with other big thinkers. Yeah, so that can't be overstated, right? So Ben and I run a mastermind group for law firm owners. Outside of that, I'm in a mastermind for entrepreneurial men who are running businesses. A lot of them are in real estate, family guys. And spending time with that group has really changed my life because what happens as you grow up through the system, whatever, and you're growing your business, is often like you reach a level of success
Yeah.
that detaches you from a lot of the people who are in your network, the people that you went to high school or college with, right? The people who were your neighbors or your family. You reach a level of success and ambition that often you find a disconnect from those people and you don't have a lot of common ground business wise to talk
Right.
about. Right? You can still talk sports, you can still be friends.
Yeah.
Um, but there's a level of conversation that you're missing out on and putting yourself into rooms with people who are at that same level of ambition and success is really a game changer because it recalibrates what your normal is like.
Yeah.
So I think so many people need to have their thermostat reset to what is normal and what is hard work and what is success, and getting into rooms with people who are doing bigger, better, faster things than you will do
Right.
that for you.
Yeah. And it will be. And to step into that room with the dare I say the self-confidence to say, I'm the small guy. Right. I've always had the perspective that if I'm one of the top three smartest, best people in
Hmm.
that room,
Hmm.
I need to get out of that room pretty quickly.
Yes.
I'm just not going to grow as much. And I hear this all the time, and you probably hear it too since you guys run these and been in them. The ROI. You're like, well, that's expensive to be in one of those. Will it return its money? And you said something that was really good. Yes, you're going to get one idea, but it's your life has changed because your thinking has changed. Your relationships have changed. You're not the same person today, Brian, that you were a year and a half ago before you joined that group. Fair?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. For sure.
And
Yeah, I mean, I'm on a text message chain this morning. One of my friends is off hiking Kilimanjaro, right? For
mm,
my Tuesday night accountability group.
yeah,
He sent a picture from the top of Mount Kilimanjaro. I don't have anybody else in my life that's doing anything like that, right?
yeah,
So yeah, so that's critically important to have people that are just stretching the bounds of like, hey, that's pretty cool.
yeah. let's talk about the importance of building our businesses, right? Yeah, and when you're building your business as an entrepreneur, we're always focused on finances and marketing and people and all that. But let's talk about the next phase down of why. Why are we
Mm,
doing all of this? Because I know family is important to you and
mhm.
building legacies and having free time. And you're not only an attorney, but you're a coach, but you're also a real estate investor. You're an athlete. I mean, unpack some of that
Yeah.
of the whys behind all of this that really hopefully keeps us centered and moving forward.
This is my favorite question, right? So lawyers get up and during our masterminds, say, I want to build a seven-figure law firm, or I want to hire an associate, or I want to bring on a partner. You go, like, why? Like, okay, I get it that you see people with seven-figure law firms or eight-figure law firms and you want to go and do that. How would your life change when you do that? Because a lot of times the answer that they're going to give to that question unlocks what the actual goal is,
Yes.
right? And you learn a lot of times that you don't need the seven-figure or the eight-figure firm. You don't need the associate. You don't need the partner. You don't need the billboard ad in
Right.
order to get to the thing that you actually wanted. And so, I've been thinking about this a lot lately because somebody asked me this question, like, what would you do if you had $10 million?
Yeah.
I don't know that I would do a lot differently, right?
Right.
And so then, okay, then should we be chasing that, or should we just be doing more of the things that we're already doing? So for me, like the important things in the spring and the fall, as I coach my kids' soccer and baseball teams, it's important for my calendar that I'm blocked off at 4 o'clock every day so that I
Hmm.
can leave and go do that, right? It's important that I kind of limit my travel in the spring and the fall so that I can be there on the weekends to coach the games. Like, and that really is the why for me. And yes, there are shiny goals. There are shiny cases that sometimes distract you, and I'm not always focused on that.
Right.
Um, but that's like figuring out what's the why. And here's the thing: the why doesn't have to be like change the world or
No.
change the law or cure homelessness or like
Right.
your why doesn't have to be this big universal. And that's I think where people get hung up.
Yeah.
It can be like, what are the most important things in your life that you just want to focus on over the next 5 years, and it doesn't take those external goals a lot of the time.
That's right. Yeah. One of the fun questions. So when we get a new client, I've got an intake questionnaire, and one of the questions is, how do you want to be remembered at your funeral?
Yeah.
And it's just interesting some of the comments I get back because I think a lot of people don't think about that. But most of the time, that the answer revolves around relationships and relational impact. I don't think I've ever had somebody say, "Well, I want my bank account to be $10 million at my funeral." I don't think I've ever had anybody say
I want him to say I was the best lawyer ever.
that.
Like
Yeah, who cares, right?
nobody gives that answer.
That's right. I want to make an impact in people's lives. I want to be remembered as somebody who cared. And I'm like, why don't we bring that into today? And it's hard because everything we see, Brian, and you know this, is yeah, seven-figure business, eight-figure, nine-figure business.
Yeah.
And I'm convinced that people aren't going to get there without systems and people.
Yeah.
Number one, you're never going to do it on your own. Um, but it
Yeah.
doesn't matter.
Well,
You,
right. Eight-figure business while working less than you're working in your current six-figure business, right?
yeah,
Like there's an easy button that you can hit.
absolutely.
No, I mean the whole thing is a challenge. I shy away from that. What do you want people to eulogize you for?
Yeah,
And I go to the part that you can control, which is like I just turned 41. Like
yeah,
statistically speaking, I'm more than halfway done.
yeah,
You
yeah,
know? All right. So then the next year has to be filled with life experiences and fun times,
yeah,
or like you can't, I don't want to put it off till I'm 60, 65. I went to Greece last year and ran in the Spartan World Championships in Sparta, Greece, and it was awesome. But getting off the plane in Greece, there were 25 wheelchairs waiting for people to get off the plane. Like,
yeah.
and I counted them. I I'm gonna travel while my hips and my knees and all that stuff works, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And hopefully stay in shape so that maybe you don't need a wheelchair, Lord willing.
Hmm.
I know your dad's really active in a lot of things, right? And so I'm a little bit younger than your dad, and I look at people like him and go, wow, he's in better shape than me. I need to do something. And so I walk around the block. That gets me out. It gets me away from Zoom, praise God. But it allows me just to get some movement. And I chase my teenage girls around the house, and try to
Yeah.
get them done. One more thing I want to talk about before we wrap this up is you said that spring and fall, you're coaching, and you need to make sure that your calendar is such that you get off at 4 o'clock. Talk about the importance of thinking and planning ahead just in business so that you don't just get so consumed because I mean
Yeah.
we talk about business owners all the time who are just like I'm exhausted. Talk about the importance of that. One tip that you would give somebody about how to
Yeah.
start moving in that direction.
Well, yeah, so great. I'm glad you asked about the tip because everybody can say it's important to
Yeah.
plan and you should sit down on Sundays and write out your week. But often by Sunday night, it's kind of too late to put the important stuff on your
Yeah.
calendar. So like the big stuff gets blocked on my calendar, right? My EA just knows that once we're in season from the second or third week of August through the end of October, 4 o'clock is blocked, right? So now I don't have stuff that gets on there that I need to move around.
Yes.
Vacations get blocked. Like we pull out the kids' school calendar and they have long weekends and stuff. It just gets blocked so that stuff doesn't go on there. So it's the tip is planning and blocking the time for the important stuff before everything else goes on the calendar
Yeah.
so that you don't go, well, man, like I got 7 trials this year. Where am I going to find the vacation
Right.
time? Right? No, you plan the vacation time and then you plan the work around the family time.
Yeah. So I'm going to paraphrase what you just said. Brian's philosophy is, hey, I've got 4 vacations this year. Where am I going to find time for this trial?
Yeah, that's right. That's
But
right.
you plan the free time first. I was in strategic coach this year and I started the year and I planned out 180 free days is what they call it, including weekends and things. And I put it on my calendar. I'm like, wow, that is so freeing. It can move around a bit. But I think entrepreneurs don't think they can do that. And Brian just gave you the freedom to do that. It's a great tip. So, Brian, man, thank you. You and I could be here forever because we are two peas in a pod in lots of ways. And we both have a very similar heart is to help business owners grow and at the same time live the life we really want to live, a life of value, life of impact for our families and for our team members and those that we serve. How do people connect with you with Great Legal Marketing? I know you've got summits coming up, but you do summits regularly. How do attorneys connect with you, follow you and Great Legal Marketing?
Yeah, I mean, best ways to connect with me is probably on LinkedIn, actually. I'm the most active of all the social media on there. I try to post once a day.
Mm-hmm.
So there, and then greatlegalmarketing.com, sign up for our email newsletter. If you're listening to this at the end of September, the summit is coming up. That's at glmsummit.com. But yeah, we are putting on more and more events. We're going to be putting on a lot of smaller events in 2025, some boot camps that we had some success with this year in our office in Fairfax. So yeah, get on that list and make sure you're the first to know.
That's great. I love it. They call it the GLM, Great Legal Marketing, GLM Tribe. Just be a part of the tribe. Get to know who these guys are. They're men of integrity and they're family men. They build great businesses and they do it without sacrificing their families. And I love that about you guys. That's why I love hanging around you. So, Brian Glass, thank you for being here. I want to capture all that, put it in the show notes so you can reach out to him. Get in the tribe, hang out with him. You're going to have a better law firm, a better business when you do. Thanks, Brian. Appreciate you
Thank
being
you,
here.
Michael.